All right, so today we're talking about the recent reimbursement decrease that ALMA announced. That's right, you heard that correctly. A couple weeks ago, ALMA announced that there would be a decrease in the reimbursement rate from Oxford, Optum, United Healthcare, right? This is kind of an umbrella insurance company. And they said that there will be a decrease to the reimbursement rates starting in the new year. Rightfully so, people are outraged. I mean, this impacts so much. And I feel like there's so much we can talk about here in this video, but the focus of this particular video is what do we do about it? How do we keep our practices running? What are some practical and tactical things we can do right now to help think about this, to actually do something about this? So that's going to be the focus of this video. But I do encourage people, I mean, of course, people should be upset and there's larger scale macro level things to be doing. I see people writing open letters to ALMA, asking for meetings, asking for explanations, and I see social workers trying to band together and try to do something about this. I think all that's really, really wonderful, and we can make a whole video just about that. But today I do want to introduce some things we can do like right now, right? I think the thing I think about is, yeah, all that large scale stuff needs to be done, but between now and then, we still have practices to run, right? We have clients to see. And so we have to figure out what we're gonna do about this. And so that will be the focus today. Now, as always, well, I guess not always, but in my recent videos, I've been doing just one cut, no editing. And today I'm actually gonna draw for you. Now, I don't draw, my drawing is horrendous, but I wanna actually start with an illustration that I hope will help make things a little bit more clear. But this is just kind of a general thing here. Now, please don't judge me. I'm going to draw right here. But when I think about private practice, one thing I think about is we have this one circle. We're going to do a Venn diagram, right? Let's call this, I don't know, you can see this good. Let's see, client interest, right? Let's call that client interest. And then we have another circle here. Let's make another one if I can do it. And this is going to be called the therapist interest, right? Now, this might not be the best title. Also, my handwriting's really sloppy. Right, now when we run a private practice, we typically want to consider what's in the best interest of the client. We also want to consider what's in the best interest of the therapist, the provider, and then try to build a practice that's somewhere in the middle, like right around here. Just a simple example would be usually what's in the best interest of the client most of the time is for them to be able to, use insurance, right? So we're just going to note that down here. And then you think about therapist interest, we do have to make a living, right? So we're going to just think about, I don't know, reimbursement rates. Right? And this could be insurance, this could be cash pay, whatever it might be, but just thinking about like the rate at which you're reimbursed. Now, historically, if we were to operate, and I'm thinking, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, before some of these tech companies were helping out in this domain, which we're going to get to in a second, for a client to use insurance would require a significant sacrifice on the end of the therapist. Really low reimbursement rates. It was really hard to work with insurance companies, right? So oftentimes what you would see historically is therapists not taking insurance, right? But now I feel like when companies like ALMA and Headway were introduced, when they first started, they landed actually somewhere like right here, right? So you have ALMA coming in and they're allowing clients to use their insurance while also giving providers reimbursement rates that are reasonable and making it fairly easy for us to take insurance. So then we have this great kind of like middle ground, right? And ALMA seemed to fit right there. Now with this recent decrease in reimbursement rates, ALMA is now, from a lot of people's perspective, taking a step outside this circle and is kind of finding themselves right here. Now, I just wanted to paint this picture because this just gives a bit of an overview about how ALMA works and kind of where they are in the therapy space. All right, so I want you to kind of keep that in mind as we go through the next couple of things that I'm going to talk about, which are a little bit more practical. All right, so let me switch screens one more time. Let me see if I can get rid of this horrendous drawing. There it is. All right, now here's my notes, my handy dandy notes here. Let me go ahead and open my version of the notes. I'm making sure I'm still recording. Looks good. All right, so let me just start with some general tips that relate to this idea of the reimbursement decrease. Now, number one, this has me thinking about the importance of not building your practice with just one platform. In particular, platforms like ALMA and Headway. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. These are companies that allow for you to be credentialed. They have EHRs. You can essentially run your entire practice off ALMA or Headway, right? Now, some providers who are new, they'll join ALMA and they'll start building their entire practice based off of ALMA. And then what happens is if ALMA was to go under or not to work anymore, or if there's a decrease and you don't agree with it, all of a sudden your practice could just collapse overnight. Now, this is worst case scenario, right? Then that's not happening to people. But a company like ALMA or Headway, although they've been around a little while, they are startups, they are tech companies, and things change pretty quickly, and oftentimes things change without our input, such as the decrease, right? And so you still want to operate your private practice, and the way I kind of think about it is to build a practice that could withstand like one of these things collapsing or changing. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a moment. But I want you to consider, how could you build a practice that doesn't solely rely on a platform like ALMA? For example, maybe getting credentialed independently, even if you don't use it, but you have that as a backup, right? You have your EHR maybe on Simple Practice or some other service. That way, if ALMA or Headway doesn't work, you have your EHR. You have billing set up in Simple Practice. Even if you don't use it, you can always fall back on it. And these are just some ideas, right? But if it's all built on something kind of shaky, that's not a great idea. The other thing you want to do, kind of general tip here, is to be flexible and ready to problem solve. We don't ever want to get too comfortable. And so, for example, a lot of people were so used to taking United Healthcare from ALMA. The reimbursement rate was pretty good. And so we kind of get in the groove of that. Now, the minute they say there's this decrease, people are upset. Again, rightfully so, but we need to be flexible in how we manage our practice following this. Now, again, large scale, I want this to be advocated for. I want therapists to band together and to advocate for a higher level change. In the meantime, though, what are we going to do? We have to have flexibility and think about how we problem solve around this, which will be part of the practical tips I'll get to in a moment. And just that reminder to never get too comfortable. And then finally, I'm thinking about how everything in this private practice space, small business ownership, is seasonal. So this change occurred. It's not a good change. This change will eventually pass. We'll eventually deal with it somehow, some way. I'm not sure large scale, but we will deal with it. And then more change will come, right? Some change is good, some change is not so good, some change is in the middle. But we want to remember that everything is seasonal and that we can get through it. We'll be able to do it. So that should suggest, I'm stumbling on my words. That is some general tips. Let's actually now talk about some practical things we can do like right now to consider in light of the insurance reimbursement decrease. Okay. Number one, and these are not going to be mind-blowing, but they're going to give you things to do. Now, this is one thing that I would encourage people to do is to set up insurance contracts independently. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, you will have the ability to negotiate your own rates, albeit it's minimal how you can do that, right? So most insurance providers, when working with a small practice or a solo provider, they don't negotiate very well. Some of them don't negotiate at all. Like I know, for example, United Healthcare, I've asked several billers, they said they're notorious for being inflexible with their reimbursement rates. And you'll often find that the reimbursement rates you can secure as an individual provider are much lower than even the decreased rates that ALMA is offering. But it does give you that power to kind of walk away from ALMA if you need to, right? Or to step away, or if it collapses or something like that, you now are still able to take insurance, right? So getting credentialed independently is something that I would encourage people to try. It's not too difficult to do. It can be time consuming depending on how you do it. I have a whole video about how to do this. I'll link that down below. The other thing I would do is, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the insurance, but have your EHR, right? So if you use Simple Practice or Therapy Notes, have that set up to be ready to bill independently. So if you do end up getting credentialed, you now can usually do this very easily. There's a learning curve, but once you learn, it's not too hard to be able to do this inside of your EHR, right? So now you think about it, if these tech companies crash, we now have the ability to take insurance if we're credentialed, and we have the ability to bill and submit claims on our own, which is liberating, right? So that's one way we can do it. Another thing you might want to be considering is your use of codes, right? Now, again, I say this with a caveat that everything from the insurance perspective We have to bill within guidelines. Everything has to be medically necessary, right? So you have to be using your discretion to do the right type of billing and to follow all legal guidelines. But with that out of the way, a lot of people, depending on the reimbursement rates, were kind of using different codes: 90834, 45 minutes, 90837, 60 minutes. And again, a lot of people getting comfortable with, I only do this type of slot or that type of slot. And with the different reimbursement rates, you might want to consider how you're using your sessions, how long your sessions are, the duration of session, because this does impact the reimbursement rate. So your ability to think through, what kind of rates or what kind of reimbursement codes, not codes, like the CPT codes, right? What length of session works for your practice, for your clients, meets medical necessity, and really does help you with the financial side of things as well. So you might want to be flexible in that realm. And then this one I consider whether or not you're someone, so some people I've seen go as far as saying, I'm done taking insurance. I don't want to work with insurance companies. Totally reasonable, makes a lot of sense. And in that regard, your next step is to really think about marketing your practice as cash pay. But that requires learning about marketing, things like Google Ads, Google My Business. And so I would encourage anyone to begin learning all of those skills and tools, whether you want to learn it and do it on your own, or you want to discover a company that can do it for you, making that relationship. Either way, I think if you're someone who's going as far as saying, I'm done with insurance, I don't want to work with it anymore, or you're even someone who's saying, hey, this kind of decrease in reimbursement rate really has me shaken up. I want to be more free, to kind of build my own practice and secure clients who are cash pay or just clients outside of these different big tech companies. Then getting familiar with new ways of marketing. And I have a whole video on that as well, is going to be a great next step as well. Now, again, I think that this what do we do section that I'm talking about here, again, it's nothing mind-blowing, but it is practical and tactical and will be things you can think about in the interim before a big level change happens on the macro level. I hope that this is helpful for you. Let me get off this screen here. I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope at the very least it's something you can learn from. And again, I think that this kind of announcement where a reimbursement rate is decreased is really, it's terrible. And it leaves a lot of us with question marks. We're not sure what to do. What does the future look like? It can be really scary. It can be infuriating, and all of these other feelings that come along with it. And I think like today, tomorrow, this week, we have to run our practices and we really want to do right by our clients, do right by our practices. And so hopefully what we talked about today helps you do that in the interim period. If you're interested in working with me directly or you want to kind of have me answer some questions for you, you might want to consider joining my community. You can try it out for free, no commitment. I'll leave a link down below in the description along with the code you can use to get a free month. And inside that community as well, we have a biller who can answer credentialing and insurance questions. We even have a marketing person who can help out with Google Ads and marketing as well. But at the end of the day, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that I see you in the next video and have a great rest of your day. I will see you soon.